but the means by which it comes has to be another human being. How shall they hear without a preacher? How shall they preach lest they be sent? But it's through human vehicles. God has the abysmal, complicated, worrying, disconcerting habit of making us depend on each other in order to get to God. No, you can go to God for yourself. I know that. I'm talking about depending upon each other to hear sometimes the clarion call for truth and justice that is issued. God says, tell John what you see and what you hear. Because the key to somebody's prison will be locked up in your testimony. What you hear and what you see, and therefore what you tell, will be the key to somebody's prison. Oh, that's why black folk have listened to these testimonies. Listen to Frederick Douglass saying what to the Negro was July 4th. It didn't mean nothing to us. Another day because we ain't got freedom. Booker T. Washington talked about letting down our pails where they were in order to deal with white supremacy in the culture. W.E.B. Du Bois talked about two warring ideals, two unreconciled strivings whose dogged strength alone keeps it from being torn asunder. To be both an American and a Negro. And what do you do with that? So he bore witness to that. Nannie Helen Burroughs and Mary Church Terrell and Joanne Robinson and Rosa Parks and Angela Davis all giving testimony about what they heard and what they saw. And sometimes, my brothers and sisters, your testimonies will be the key to unlock the prison in which some brother or sister is locked. Some prison of doubt, some prison of lack of faith, some prison lack of resource. Your testimony, that's why it's important not to lie. Some folk acting like they've been on the mountain all their life. Ain't acting like you've been struggling. I don't know about you, but I've been through some struggles. That's why I try to tell my testimony, not to be trying to pump up all the bad stuff I did, but to let you know how good God is.
Yeah.
In the midst of that, I can tell you what I done heard and what I done seen. And what I done heard is a lot of testimony from our tremendous tradition about what God is capable of and what we as a people can do when we put our minds to it. They tell us we can't, we say we can. They tell us we won't, we say we will. They tell us that we will never, we say we will always. Because we have a faith that's deep and resonant. We don't believe what other folks say about us. We believe in what God said to us. They said we would never get educated. They said we would never get to school. We burned the midnight oil. We snuck off and learned to read. We taught ourselves how to read. Frederick Douglass was taught how to read and then began to write not one, not two, but 3 autobiographies because he was so in love with learning. He said learning unfits a child for slavery. George Clinton said free your mind and your behind will follow. That's what Frederick Douglass was saying. Free your mind and your life will follow. And so we have to bear witness to what God has done. I don't know about you. I was a teen father in Detroit. I was 18 years old. Wife intended was 26. I ain't saying there was no shotgun with it, but a revolver was in the room. And you know how that turned out, I ain't got to tell you. And then went on, working in factories, hustling on the streets of Detroit. 21, I said, well, I better get an education because I got to take care of my son. So I got to figure out something to do. So like Sam Cooke said, I grabbed an armful of Greyhound. Went from Detroit down to Tennessee. What was God going to do with me in Knoxville, Tennessee? Pastoring churches and working in factories, getting called to the ministry and trying to figure out my way. And God gave me ministers like Dr. Sampson and Dr. Booth and Dr. Earl, who gave me a sense of who I could become. And I pulled upon the memory of Dr. Patterson and Dr. Scott and Dr. Jones and men who bore witness, who told the truth about what God could do. That's why you've got to tell the truth, my brothers and sisters. Say what God has done for you. What he's done for others, he can do for you. You've got to be honest about it, though. Tell the truth about your ways in the past and how God cleaned you up, and maybe some other young person out there who doesn't believe they're worth anything will know that God can turn them around. Jesus said to John, tell him what you hear and what you see. The lame will walk again. The lepers will be cleansed. Those who are poor will be addressed. Here we are in our own age. I'm almost done. Here we are as people of color, especially as black people. Some of us have gotten so much stuff now we never forgot about the poor. We diss them. We distance ourselves from them. We don't like the way some of these young people dress. Now look, I understand. You know, I tell the young people, I can't sag. I can't do that. Hands down to my, I can't do it. First of all, you have to have clean underwear all the time. I ain't mad if you do that. I just can't do that. And there's too much air back there for me. I don't need that much air conditioning. But I ain't mad if you dress that way, but understand when to dress that way and when not to dress that way. I told my son, I ain't mad at you for sagging, act like you live in Sag Harbor for all I care. Do your thing. But when you go to work trying to get a job, I want you to pull your britches up, unless you're working at a factory or you're working at a place where you can wear your britches down because you're an impresario of a hip-hop company. Other than that, if you're trying to get a job, be a sellout. Good morning, sir. How are you finding? How are you? Did you see that George Day movie last night by Jiminy Christmas? It was great.